Hey neighbors, what's good in the hood? Today we're looking at Dungeonborne and seeing what's good with this game. So Dungeonborne is a extraction, a looter, dungeon sort of game where you start off, you have your menu here, your main camp. This is where you select what map you want to go to. Currently there's only two. We're in the playtest right now, so it's not a full game, and so there's a lot of things missing. There's things that they need to work on, which I understand. So we're looking at the good things and what they can improve. So you can choose what map you want to go into, so the castle, and these little stars indicate difficulty. And another thing, you can play this game with up to 3 people, but you could also play alone. It's like in Fortnite or other games where you can select what kind or how many people are on the map. It'll put you, if you're alone, it'll put you with 14 other single people. If you have 2 people, then other teams of 2, and then 3 and teams of 3. But when you start, you don't have anything, and you jump in, and the way it works, you have an inventory system, and then you have your backpack or whatever, and the stuff that you pick up, they take up a certain amount of grid space. You're dropped into this map with other players, and the map is really big, but also you have to keep in mind that at the top there's a timer. There's 15 minutes, and if by the end of the 15 minutes you don't make it out, you end up dying. And the thing about this game is when you die, you lose all your equipped stuff. And so if you had a bunch of purple, rare, all these super strong things and you didn't make it out, then you lose all of that. And another way you can die, you still die, but another thing, as I mentioned earlier, there are other players who are in the map at the same time as you, and they don't have to be aggressive, but most of the time they are, and they can attack you, and if you die, same thing, you lose all your stuff. But there's NPCs like these guys, these knights, and there's also mini bosses that sort of roam around the map. And when you kill these guys, so this guy has a green light, the other one has a white light. So one of them has an uncommon item, the other one has a common. So they drop things, you can pick them up, put in your backpack. And so I think this game does a good job on balancing difficulty and the loot that there is and the enemies that there are, because in the beginning you start with very weak items and very weak weapons, equipment, and you don't really know the attack patterns of these enemies. And they're not overly hard, but you do need to learn what they do. And so I like the way this game plays. The only thing is it's hard to get started. I feel like I've been doing sort of the same thing for a while now. I played this game for a good amount of hours, and because I kept dying to not finding a portal or an enemy killing me or another player killing me, it took me a long time to actually progress and do anything in this game. But I feel like it could have gone faster, or it would go faster if I didn't have to deal with enemy players. The thing is, playing with enemy players, it's not the worst. You just have to understand that they're there, and sometimes you can work together, but usually they're hostile. And so while this game is fun, it is new and it's in early development phase since we're playing the playtest. And a couple things that I would change or improve on would be, first, I would add a sort of PvE element, because this is like Tarkov. And the thing is, for those who like extraction style games, they're probably already used to it. But I like this style of game. I don't exactly want to have to deal with enemy players, because sometimes I could be fighting a boss or some other little enemies, and then from the side I have some guy just shoot a giant fireball at me, and then I end up dying when I was doing pretty well. I like the system that the Division has, where the game is PvE, the majority of it, but then if you want to risk getting higher loot, so it becomes a high risk, high reward sort of thing, you can go to what's called the dead zone, and then that's where you find other enemy players, and you have a chance of also fighting PvE enemies, regular NPCs that have high loot, but there's a high chance that another player is going to kill you or attack you while you're out finding loot. Another thing is the game it feels slow because there's no sprint or run mechanic, so you sort of just walk everywhere, and it's a pretty slow speed. There's one class, which is a rogue, that moves a little faster than everyone else, but only slightly. And I wish there was some sort of stamina run mechanic, just because, especially since we're on a time frame and we need to travel pretty far on the map to find a portal to extract. I feel like there should be some sort of movement enhancement in this game. Also later on, as you level up, because the thing is, you don't lose everything completely if you were to die. Your characters, you can make multiple characters, and your characters have their own leveling system. And I don't really understand how the XP works. I've just been getting more every single time I extract, regardless of how many enemies I defeat or other players I beat. But every time they level up, they get 1 point in randomly one of these traits. And I feel like, depending on who you're playing, you would rather have the freedom to put it in a certain trait for a specific buff that you're working towards. Because here, every single one, well, these middle four, when you hit a certain threshold, like stamina 24, intelligence 87, intelligence 50, then you unlock additional skills. So I feel like it should give you the opportunity to choose what you want to level up, and that way you can have more control over the build of your character. And so as of right now, you can tell that it's still new and it does need some work, but there's definitely a lot of potential here in this game. And while it has been pretty repetitive, I did enjoy the time that I spent with it, and I just hope they sort of clean some of this stuff up, implement, I hope, a PvE aspect so that other people can play who aren't entirely interested in the whole PvP aspect. But if you like games like Tarkov or what was that, Hunt Showdown, which have extraction with PvE and PvP elements similar to this game, you'd enjoy this, because this is another of that style of game, but instead of a shooter or a sort of Wild West, this is a medieval style. And so you have swords, you have magic, you have skeletons, and everything sort of medieval fantasy in this game. And if you found this review helpful, be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what other games I should review.